We never set out to find them. Honestly, most of us didn't believe they existed. The vastness of space, the improbable odds of life springing up on another planet, let alone intelligent life. It seemed like the stuff of science fiction. But then the signal came. A clear, distinct pattern, repeating on a frequency we'd never seen before. It emanated from a star system some 30 light-years away. 30 light-years. In cosmic terms, a stone's throw. We didn't broadcast a reply right away. There was debate, of course. Some argued it was too dangerous, that we shouldn't reveal our existence to an unknown species. Others argued it was our duty, our destiny, to reach out and make contact. In the end, curiosity won out. We sent a message, a simple greeting, encoded in binary. And we waited. Years passed. Decades. The silence was deafening. The signal had been a one-off, a cosmic fluke. We'd been foolish to think otherwise. Just as we were about to give up hope, a reply came. A different frequency this time, but the same distinct pattern. We'd made contact. First contact. It was a moment that would change our world, our understanding of the universe, forever. We pored over the message, deciphering its meaning. It was an invitation, a request for us to visit their world. They called themselves the Luri. They were a peaceful people, they said, eager to learn about our culture, our technology. We built a ship, the Odyssey, the most advanced spacecraft ever constructed. It would take us 20 years to reach their world, traveling at a fraction of the speed of light. A crew of 20 scientists, engineers, linguists, and diplomats volunteered for the mission. I was one of them. Dr. Emily Chen, astrophysicist. I dreamed of this moment since I was a child, poring over old science fiction novels, imagining the day we would meet our cosmic neighbors. The journey was long and arduous. We spent years in cryogenic sleep, waking only for brief periods to check systems, perform maintenance, and stave off the bone-deep boredom of interstellar travel. But finally, after 2 decades, we arrived. The Luri homeworld was a breathtaking sight. A vibrant blue planet, ringed by a shimmering asteroid belt. We entered orbit, cautious, scanning for any signs of hostility. But there were none. The Luri welcomed us with open arms, or rather, open tentacles. They were a curious species, vaguely insectoid in appearance, with 6 limbs and large, multifaceted eyes. Their language was a series of clicks and chirps, but our linguists quickly developed a translation program. We spent months on their world, exchanging knowledge, learning about their history, their culture, their technology. They were a remarkably advanced civilization, far surpassing our own in many areas. Their energy sources were clean and efficient, their medical technology could cure diseases we thought incurable, their understanding of physics was light years ahead of ours. And yet, they were humble, eager to learn from us, to share their knowledge. We were treated like heroes, like gods. We were given access to their most sacred sites, their most advanced laboratories. We were invited into their homes, their families. We formed friendships, even romances. For a while, it seemed like we had found paradise. But then everything changed. A new Luri arrived, a high-ranking military general. He was a towering figure, his exoskeleton gleaming in the sunlight. He viewed us with suspicion, his multifaceted eyes narrowed. He didn't trust us, he said. He'd seen what humans were capable of, the wars, the destruction. He didn't believe we were here for peaceful purposes. His words sent a chill through our hearts. We tried to reason with him, to assure him we were here as friends, as learners. But he wouldn't listen. He ordered us to leave, to never return. Our Luri friends were distraught, but they couldn't disobey their general. We left, our hearts heavy with disappointment. We had come so far, only to be rejected. We had thought we had found friends, allies, only to discover we were feared, mistrusted. The journey home was a somber one. We had learned so much, but at what cost? We returned to Earth as heroes, celebrated for our achievements. But I couldn't shake the feeling that we had failed. We had made contact, but we had also made enemies. And the worst part was, I couldn't blame the general for his mistrust. I had seen what humans were capable of, too. The wars, the destruction, the cruelty. Was it any wonder they were afraid of us? The aftermath of our return was a whirlwind of activity. The Luri technology we brought back revolutionized our world. Their clean energy sources solved our climate crisis, their medical advancements cured diseases that had plagued us for centuries. It was a golden age for humanity. But it was a golden age built on a lie. We told the world the Luri were our friends, our allies. We glossed over the general's hostility, his warnings. We didn't want to scare people, to jeopardize the progress we'd made. But I knew the truth. I knew we were living on borrowed time. The Luri technology we'd brought back was a double-edged sword. It gave us power, but it also made us a target. Other nations, envious of our newfound prosperity, began to militarize. They developed weapons based on Luri technology, weapons far more powerful than anything we'd ever seen before. A new arms race was underway, a race that could only end in disaster. I tried to warn people, to tell them the truth about the Luri, but no one would listen. I was dismissed as a paranoid conspiracy theorist, a fearmonger. My colleagues ostracized me, my reputation was ruined. I was alone. And then the Luri returned. A fleet of their ships appeared in orbit, their sleek, insectoid forms a stark contrast to the clunky, utilitarian design of our own spacecraft. They broadcast a message, a warning. They had been monitoring our progress, they said, and they were not pleased. We had misused their technology, turned it into weapons of war. We had betrayed their trust. Panic gripped the world. Governments scrambled to respond, to defend themselves. But it was too late. The Luri launched their attack. Their weapons were devastating. Our most advanced defenses were useless against them. Cities crumbled, entire nations were wiped off the map. Billions died. It was a massacre. I watched in horror as the world I knew burned. I had seen this coming, but I had been powerless to stop it. I had failed. In the chaos, I received a message from an old friend, a Luri scientist named Elara. She had helped me learn their language, their culture. We had even shared a brief romance during my time on their world. She told me she was sorry, that she had tried to stop the attack, but the general had been too powerful. She begged me to flee, to find a safe place. I didn't know where to go, what to do. I was lost, alone, adrift in a sea of despair. But then I remembered something Elara had told me once, a story about a hidden sanctuary, a place where the Luri went to escape the wars and conflicts of their own world. It was a long shot, but it was my only hope. I stole a ship, a small, experimental craft designed for interstellar travel. I loaded it with supplies, enough to last me for months, maybe years. And then I set off, following the coordinates Elara had given me. The journey was long and perilous. I encountered storms, radiation belts, rogue asteroids. But I kept going, driven by the hope of finding a safe haven, a place where I could start over. After weeks of travel, I arrived at the coordinates Elara had given me. It was a small, unassuming planet, orbiting a dying star. But as I approached, I saw something that took my breath away. It was a city, a vast, sprawling metropolis, built into the side of a mountain. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen before, a fusion of Luri and human architecture, a testament to the friendship we had once shared. I landed my ship on the outskirts of the city, my heart pounding with anticipation. I had found it, the sanctuary. But as I stepped out of my ship, I was greeted by a sight that filled me with dread. A group of Luri soldiers stood before me, their weapons trained on me. I had been found. My mind raced. Were these soldiers here to arrest me? Execute me? The lead soldier, a grizzled veteran with scars etched across his exoskeleton, approached. He spoke in Luri, his voice a harsh rasp. "Dr. Chen," he said, "we've been expecting you." Expecting me? My heart pounded in my chest. I had no idea what to expect. But then, the soldier lowered his weapon and gestured towards the city. "Welcome to Sanctuary," he said. "Elara sent us to find you." Relief washed over me. I had been wrong. This wasn't a trap. It was a rescue mission. Elara had saved me again. I was escorted into the city, a labyrinth of winding tunnels and towering structures. The Luri who lived here were a diverse bunch, refugees from all corners of their world. There were scientists, artists, philosophers, even a few former military officers who had grown disillusioned with the war. Elara greeted me with a warm embrace, her multifaceted eyes filled with tears. She explained that Sanctuary had been built by a group of Luri who believed there was another way, a way to coexist with humans without resorting to violence. They had been gathering resources, building a haven, preparing for the day when the war would end. I was in awe. These Luri had not given up on humanity, even after everything that had happened. They still believed in the possibility of peace. I spent the next few months learning about Sanctuary, its people, its purpose. I helped them with their research, their technology. I even started teaching a few classes, sharing my knowledge of human culture and history. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was hiding, running away from my problems. I wanted to help, to make amends for the damage I had done. I wanted to find a way to end the war, to bring peace to both our worlds. One day, while working in the lab, I stumbled upon a startling discovery. The Luri technology we had brought back to Earth was incomplete. It was missing a key component, a failsafe designed to prevent it from being used for destructive purposes. This failsafe had been deliberately omitted by the General, the one who had warned us about the dangers of our own aggression. It was a revelation. The General had not been trying to sabotage us. He had been trying to protect us from ourselves. He knew we were not ready for such advanced technology, that we would misuse it, turn it into weapons. He had tried to warn us, but we hadn't listened. I realized then that the war wasn't just the General's fault. It was our fault too. We had been blinded by greed, by our own arrogance. We had thought we were better than the Luri, that we deserved their technology, their knowledge. We had been wrong. But it wasn't too late to change things. With Alara's help, I developed a plan. We would return to Earth, not as conquerors, but as peacemakers. We would bring the missing component, the failsafe, and deactivate all the weapons built with Luri technology. We would show the world that there was another way, a way to coexist, to learn from each other, to grow together. It was a risky plan, a desperate gamble. But it was the only way I could think of to redeem myself, to atone for my sins. And so, with Alara by my side, I set off on a new mission, a mission to save both our worlds. The soldier led me through a series of tunnels and chambers, the air thick with anticipation. We emerged into a vast, dimly lit cavern, where a group of Luri waited, their faces etched with worry and hope. At the center of the group stood Alara, her eyes filled with a mixture of relief and determination. "Emily," she said, embracing me tightly. "You made it." I nodded, my voice thick with emotion. "I did," I managed to say. "But not without your help." Alara smiled. "We've been preparing for your arrival," she said. "We have much to discuss." We gathered in a council chamber, a circular room carved out of the mountainside. The walls were adorned with intricate carvings, depicting scenes of peace and harmony between humans and Luri. It was a stark contrast to the war-torn reality of our worlds. Alara began to explain their plan. The sanctuary, she said, was more than just a refuge. It was a beacon of hope, a symbol of the potential for peace between our species. They had been working tirelessly to develop a way to neutralize the Luri technology that had been weaponized, to render it harmless. "We believe we've found a solution," Alara said, her voice filled with excitement. "A way to activate the failsafe that was deliberately omitted from the technology we shared with you." My heart leapt. This was it, the answer I had been searching for. The key to ending the war. But Alara's next words brought me crashing back down to Earth. "The failsafe can only be activated from within the Luri homeworld," she said. "We need someone to go there, to infiltrate their systems and trigger the shutdown." A hush fell over the room. It was a suicide mission. The Luri homeworld was heavily fortified, swarming with soldiers loyal to the General. Anyone who attempted to infiltrate it would be caught and executed. I looked around the room, at the faces of my fellow refugees. They were all brave, resourceful individuals, but none of them were foolish enough to volunteer for such a dangerous mission. And then, I made a decision. A decision that would change the course of my life, and perhaps the fate of two worlds. "I'll go," I said, my voice barely a whisper. Alara's eyes widened in surprise. "Emily, no," she said. "It's too dangerous." I shook my head. "It's the only way," I said. "I'm the only one who knows how to activate the failsafe. And I owe it to both our peoples to try." Alara looked at me for a long moment, her eyes filled with a mixture of admiration and fear. Then, she nodded. "Very well," she said. "We will help you in any way we can. But know this, Emily, you are not alone. We are all with you, in spirit." I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the task ahead. I knew the odds were stacked against me, that I might not survive this mission. But I also knew that I had to try. For the sake of peace, for the future of humanity and the Luri, I had to try. I gathered my supplies, my tools, my courage. I said goodbye to Alara, to my friends, to my new home. And then, I boarded a small shuttle, a vessel of hope in a sea of despair. I set course for the Luri homeworld, my heart filled with a mixture of fear and determination. I knew I was embarking on a perilous journey, a journey into the heart of darkness. But I also knew that I was not alone. I carried with me the hopes and dreams of two worlds, the belief that even in the darkest of times, there is always a chance for redemption. The journey to the Luri homeworld was a blur of hyperspace jumps and sleepless nights. I pored over the technical schematics of the Luri technology, familiarizing myself with the failsafe protocols. Elara had provided me with a holographic disguise that would mask my human features, but it wouldn't fool anyone for long. I had to be quick, efficient, and above all, lucky. Upon arrival, the Luri homeworld was a stark contrast to the peaceful sanctuary I had left behind. The once vibrant cities were now scarred by battle, the atmosphere thick with tension. Military patrols swarmed the streets, their multifaceted eyes scanning for any sign of dissent. I landed my shuttle in a remote area, far from the prying eyes of the authorities. Using the cover of darkness, I made my way towards the central command center, the nerve center of the Luri military operations. My disguise held up, allowing me to blend in with the throngs of Luri workers and technicians. Inside the command center, I navigated a maze of corridors and security checkpoints, my heart pounding with each step. I finally reached the main control room, a vast chamber filled with glowing screens and whirring machinery. In the center of the room, a lone figure stood before a massive console, his back turned to me. I recognized him immediately. It was the general, the architect of this war, the one who had warned us about our own destructive tendencies. He seemed older now, his exoskeleton weathered by the weight of his decisions. I took a deep breath and stepped forward. "General," I said, my voice amplified by the acoustics of the room. He turned, his eyes widening in surprise as he recognized my human form. "You," he hissed, his voice dripping with venom. "You dare to show your face here, after all the destruction you have caused?" I held his gaze, refusing to back down. "I'm here to end this war," I said. "To correct the mistakes we both have made." The general scoffed. "You think you can stop me? You are but one insignificant human, a pawn in a game you do not understand." I shook my head. "I'm not here to fight you," I said. "I'm here to help you." I explained the situation, how the Luri technology was incomplete, how the failsafe could end the war and prevent further bloodshed. At first, the general was dismissive, accusing me of lying, of trying to trick him. But as I continued to explain the technical details, I could see a flicker of doubt in his eyes. "And how do I know you're not lying?" he asked, his voice laced with suspicion. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small data crystal. "This contains the missing code, the failsafe protocol," I said. "It can only be activated from here, from this console. But you have to trust me." The general stared at the crystal, his mind racing. He was a proud warrior, a strategist, but he was also a pragmatist. He knew that the war was taking a toll on his people, that their resources were dwindling, their morale waning. The failsafe could be his salvation, a way to end the conflict without sacrificing his pride. He looked at me, his eyes searching mine. For a moment, I thought he was going to refuse, to order his guards to arrest me. But then, he reached out and took the crystal from my hand. "Very well," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "I will trust you, human. But if you betray me, you will pay the price." He turned back to the console and inserted the crystal. The screens flickered, the machinery whirred. And then, silence. The war was over. The following weeks were a whirlwind of change. The news of the war's end spread like wildfire, sparking celebrations across both worlds. The Luri military, without the general's iron grip, fractured into factions. Some resisted the ceasefire, clinging to their warmongering ways, but the majority embraced the newfound peace with relief and gratitude. Elara and I returned to Earth as heroes, hailed for our role in ending the conflict. The Luri technology, once a source of fear and destruction, was repurposed for peaceful applications. We collaborated on projects that addressed climate change, resource scarcity, and social inequality. A new era of cooperation and understanding dawned between our two species. But amidst the celebrations and the newfound hope, I couldn't shake the guilt that gnawed at me. I had played a part in the war's inception, in the devastation it had caused. The faces of the billions who had perished haunted my dreams. I sought solace in my work, devoting myself to the scientific collaboration between our worlds. I led research teams, developed new technologies, and mentored young scientists from both species. But the guilt remained, a constant shadow in the back of my mind. One day, as I was working late in the lab, I received an unexpected visitor. It was the general, the Luri who had once been my enemy, the one who had warned us about our own destructive tendencies. He looked older, his exoskeleton more weathered, but his eyes still burned with the same intensity. "Dr. Chen," he said, his voice raspy but respectful. "I have come to apologize." I was taken aback. Apologize? From the architect of the war? He continued, I was blinded by my own pride, my own fear. I saw your potential for aggression, but I failed to see your capacity for compassion, for understanding. You have taught me a valuable lesson, human. And for that, I am grateful. He extended a hand, a gesture of peace and reconciliation. I hesitated for a moment, then reached out and took it. Our hands, different in form, clasped together in a symbol of unity. In that moment, I realized that forgiveness is not just for the forgiven, but for the forgiver as well. It is a gift we give to ourselves, a way to release the burden of guilt and move forward. The General and I spent hours talking, sharing our experiences, our regrets, our hopes for the future. We found common ground, a shared understanding of the challenges and opportunities that lay ahead. When he finally left, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. The guilt had not vanished entirely, but it had lessened, transformed into a resolve to dedicate my life to building a better future, a future where humans and Luri could coexist in harmony, where war would be a distant memory. And so, I continued my work, my research, my teaching. I mentored a new generation of scientists, leaders, and peacemakers. I spoke out against injustice, against prejudice, against the forces that sought to divide us. I lived a long and fulfilling life, witnessing firsthand the transformation of our two worlds. I saw humans and Luri working together, building a future based on mutual respect, understanding, and cooperation. I saw children of both species playing together, learning from each other, forging bonds of friendship that would last a lifetime. And as I neared the end of my days, I looked back on my life with a sense of pride and accomplishment. I had made mistakes, caused pain, but I had also learned, grown, and made amends. I had found redemption, not in the eyes of others, but in my own heart. The following years were a testament to the resilience of both our species. Earth and the Luri homeworld, once locked in a devastating conflict, now collaborated on groundbreaking projects that pushed the boundaries of science and technology. We shared knowledge, resources, and cultures, forging a bond that transcended the vastness of space. I became a symbol of this newfound unity, a bridge between two worlds. I traveled back and forth between Earth and the Luri homeworld, leading joint research initiatives, fostering cultural exchange programs, and promoting understanding between our peoples. The General, who had once been my adversary, became a valued colleague and friend. We worked together to rebuild our shattered worlds, to create a brighter future for both our species. However, peace is a fragile thing, especially in the vastness of space. Whispers of discontent began to surface among the Luri, fueled by those who still resented humans for the war. They blamed us for the loss of their loved ones, for the scars that marred their world. These whispers turned into murmurs, then shouts, then organized protests. A new faction emerged, the Luri nationalists, who sought to sever all ties with Earth, to return to their isolationist past. I tried to reason with them, to remind them of the progress we had made together, the benefits of cooperation. But their anger and resentment were too deep-seated. They saw me as a traitor, a collaborator with the enemy. My life was threatened, my safety compromised. One day, as I was preparing to return to Earth, I received a cryptic message from Elara. It was a warning, a plea for help. The nationalists were planning a coup, a takeover of the Luri government. They were going to sabotage the peace treaty, reignite the war. I knew I had to act, to prevent history from repeating itself. But I was alone, outnumbered, and outgunned. I contacted the General, hoping he would help me, but he was nowhere to be found. The nationalists had already infiltrated the military, sowing seeds of discord and distrust. As I raced against time to uncover the nationalists' plot, I realized that the danger extended far beyond the Luri homeworld. They had allies on Earth, powerful individuals who shared their xenophobic ideology, who sought to exploit the Luri technology for their own nefarious purposes. The fate of both our worlds hung in the balance. In a desperate attempt to thwart the coup, I infiltrated a secret nationalist meeting. I disguised myself as one of their own, using the holographic technology Elara had given me. I listened as they outlined their plans, their faces twisted with hatred and fanaticism. They spoke of a weapon, a devastating new weapon that could wipe out entire cities, entire planets. A weapon that could destroy everything we had worked so hard to build. As I listened, a chilling realization dawned on me. The war had never truly ended. It had merely been dormant, waiting for the right moment to re-emerge. And now, that moment had arrived. The fate of two worlds rested on my shoulders, and the clock was ticking.